We're going to get a little creative with this one.
All right.
So, Nebula has the power to create and live in her own TV show, like Wanda does in WandaVision.
Okay.
What TV show does she pick, and who does she play in it?
She's in Friends.
Of course.
And she's just like the weird, quiet one that has no lines, who just sits there the whole time.
All I'm picturing now is, like, all of the regular cast hanging out in the living room, and she's just, like, in like a door crack in the corner, like, you could just barely see her.
Yeah,
She's
when
just
someone cracks a joke, she just goes...
Okay, I'm feeling this so far. You can take 3 other MCU characters with you and cast them in Friends. Who are you taking and who are they playing?
I'm going to bring Drax. Imagine Drax. I imagine Drax finding Chandler's jokes the funniest things he's ever heard. So it's just constant, like, roaring laughter from Drax. Like, you have a third nipple. Thor?
This is getting better and better.
I don't know why. He just
Thor brings the party.
Yeah, Thor can, yeah, okay, because third parties now. Yes, because he's like a fun Thor. Yeah, so he brings the party and the lightning and stuff. And Gwyneth Paltrow's character? I don't know why.
Pepper could come. I mean, I feel like in this mix we might need someone to, keep order and keep everyone, behaving.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
a reasonable extent.
Yeah, I'm taking Pepper.
All right. So we got 3 co-stars for you. Now we obviously have to cast the big bad. Who is the villain of Nebula's Friends?
It's Captain America, right? Because Captain America is the ultimate good guy, and we need to see that dark side because everybody's got one, even you, Captain America.
Hello everyone, I am Perry Nemiroff, this is Karen Gillan, and you're watching Collider Ladies Night. I've got 8 questions here. We're going to roll the die 3 times, and those are the 3 questions we're sticking to start at least. A bunch of fun random things. Your first roll is a 2. This one's called Never Again. What is something that you did for a film or a show that now makes you say, I'm so glad I did that, but never again?
Maybe prosthetics? Rolls with prosthetics. So I play the character Nebula in the Marvel movies, so like from Guardians of the Galaxy and then Avengers. You know what? It's really cool because it really does help with the character. It gets me in the zone. It just makes me feel like her. It does a lot of the job for me. But it's just such an intense experience that I feel like I would really have to think about it if I was going to do something with that level of coverage. Again, like a little prosthetic is fine, but the full coverage is like claustrophobia central.
We've got a 7. This is a random new one I came up with. I'm calling it boring equals good. It'll make sense in a minute. So we know you from some of the coolest, biggest action franchises out there. But on your day off, what is your favorite boring hobby to do?
That's a great question because I am really good at being boring. Like I am talented at being boring. Like I love because I'm a firm believer in like rejuvenation. So I really think that people need to sit and do nothing more than they currently do. Like I see some people that are just go, go, go. And I'm like, guys, just sit and have a day of absolutely nothing. Like no work whatsoever. I'm really good at that. So maybe my favorite thing is to be in the bath with some salts and some oils. I don't know if that counts as boring, but I mean, yeah, everyone washes themselves, so it's pretty boring.
This one's a 3. Impressions. Based on our last conversation, I already know that you are quite skilled at doing impressions. So, what is the newest one you've picked up, and can you share it?
Okay, I don't know if I can do this, but you've got to guess who it is, right?
Okay, yeah, I'm down.
I would just like to say that I have created something that is going to change the world, because that's what we do. We change the world, and people think you're crazy until you do it, and then you change the world with some samples of blood.
What is this? Is this Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or someone?
Not far off. It's the tech world. It's Elizabeth Holmes. Invent.
Oh my!
Not invent that sample thing.
Now my brain is going straight back to that documentary. There are so many actors out there who get these massive career launching opportunities from, let's say, a show or a movie on the level of a Doctor Who. But then what happens is they're maybe not able to capitalize it and keep that momentum going, or two, they're not able to create a range of work and they wind up getting boxed into what they did so well on that hot show. That is not the case for you, though. You have momentum and there is so much range on your resume. So after the success of Doctor Who, what was the key in terms of your decision-making process when you took on new projects that you think contributed to that?
I mean, of course I was seeking range because I think we all want to like challenge ourselves and stuff, but like I was just taking what was coming to me also. So it's like, I mean, I did move to America after Doctor Who, and maybe that was somewhat of a fresh start. And I think, and I did sort of exist in the sci-fi space beyond Doctor Who. So there is kind of like, you can see once you get into a genre, you tend to get other offers in the same genre. And then I think that kind of maybe like led me to Marvel, and then Marvel kind of led me to Jumanji, which was not sci-fi, but it was slightly action. So you could see like the thread almost, and that turned into more comedy. And then I got offered, some comedies and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I've just been lucky to get to do that. But also I've definitely like said no to things that I don't think move me in the direction that I don't want to go in. I'm a firm believer in doing that.
With that in mind, what is, you don't have to name a specific thing, but what is like either maybe a genre or a quality in a character that made you think like, no, that's not what I want right now? And on the other hand, what is something that you have yet to do that you are still itching to sink your teeth into?
I think whenever I read a role that's kind of like the wife, it's hard to get very excited about them if they aren't given like one element to really grab onto, because there's like these roles that are just like, are essentially like, come back to me, be safe out there, I'm going to hold down the fort while you come back. And it's like that old chestnut. And like people like those roles are hard because there's not anything to grab onto almost. I would probably have a harder time with that than a really meaty role. So I tend to stay clear of those. I think I've not done something that's purely in the dramatic space, which is something I would love to try, like something that's not genre or comedy, it's more, or action. It's more like just straight acting. I would love to play around in that area and see what comes out of it.
Back to when you're first starting out in the industry. I know at that point in a career, it can be pretty nerve-wracking to speak up and maybe say to a director, I think my character would do this way. Do you remember the very first time that you kind of built up the courage and confidence to do something like that?
Yeah, I remember starting out and thinking that you weren't allowed to do that. And then I think when you learn that you are and that you should is when you start to, it's a little bit of a superpower, I think, when you realize like that you can control, you are the expert in the field and you've been hired by people to be that. And so it's like, it's nice to do that. And I think people actually want that from you too. Like, I don't think a director just purely wants you to follow their lead. I think they're looking for someone who can bring something to it that they wouldn't have thought of. And just give them some options in the edit. But I think I learned that probably on Doctor Who, because what happens on television is you are the consistent factor and then the directors change over all the time. And so there comes a point where they're going, would your character do this? And they're asking you. And so from a young age, I sort of learned that, oh, I know a little bit more about this than you do, this particular character.
Talking about some more directors that you've worked with, you mentioned that on TV you work with a whole variety of directors on one character. That doesn't happen as much in film, but it did happen for you with Nebula, and you work with some incredible people, James Gunn, the Russo brothers, and now Taika Waititi. Yeah. I feel like this might be a big question to ask, but is there anything you were able to tap into with Nebula that's specific to each one of those directors, a quality of hers that you only pulled out because of their way of working as an actor's director?
I mean, I think a lot of the reason that Nebula is the way she is because of James Gunn. I mean, he's the sort of creator of her, and I think he really connected with the character personally. And so, like, I remember when we would do like scenes between me and Gamora, he'd be like crying in the rehearsals and stuff. He's like so invested. So it's largely down to him, I would say. And then and then I worked with the Russo brothers after that, and I think we all in the Guardians cast were like, oh my gosh, we're going off and we're going to do this character without James. How are we going to cope? Are we going to still know how to do this? But the Russos were amazing, and they kind of just really allowed us to bring our knowledge of the characters to it. They were so receptive to it. I would sort of be able to say to the Russos, like, I feel like, you know, Thanos is in the scene, like Nebula would be feeling very emotional right now if her father is there, and they're like, yep, and then they like completely like use that, and it's completely in the movie, which was really nice. And also Joe Russo played Thanos with me, so I was acting with the director, which was amazing because he really was in the scene with me, and so he was seeing things that were happening between us that I don't think he would see from the outside, and so he was kind of like, oh, I know how to shoot this because this is what's happening. So that was a really cool experience. And then Taika really brought out the bonkers side. I mean, Nebula is going to be, I think everyone is just really, really funny and bonkers and wild.
So I know you probably can't tell us a thing about what Nebula's up to in Thor: Love and Thunder, but to kind of bridge the gap here, just to tee it up a little, can you tell us about Nebula's headspace at the end of Endgame? In particular, maybe when she's standing there at Tony Stark's funeral. How does everything that she's been through make her feel about the people around her, and how does it change how she pictures life for herself going forward?
Yeah, it's really, I think we left Nebula in a really interesting place where she, you know, experienced the death of her father, but also of her abuser, essentially, like the person that made her life a living hell. And so those feelings are really conflicting. I think for her, she's feeling a sense of relief that she, you know, the catharsis of it all, but she's also probably feeling a sense of loss to a father figure, because these relationships can be really, really complicated, where even though they're treating you so badly, you can still be desperate for approval and love from that type of figure in your life. And so for her, I think it's both, which I feel like they really captured in the music for Nebula in that movie. I'm just remembering, like, they did this like really twisted, swoony music when she was looking at Thanos, and I was like, oh, yes, you get it. You totally get it. Thank you, composers.
Gunpowder Milkshake. I know that you were cast in this movie first, so what was it like just sitting there watching all of those roles filled around you? Because this cast is just something else. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was so wild. Like, I signed up to the movie and I was so excited about the movie, and then I just hear like woman after woman joining the cast, and I'm like, her? Really? We're getting her and her and her? Like, it just, I was subtly starstruck from start to finish in that movie, just trying to play it cool and not succeeding.
Of that whole ensemble, everyone's great, but is there anyone that you were kind of geeking out over the most because you were a big fan of a specific movie or show they did?
I feel like I was geeking out a little bit over Carla Gugino. Like, she was in Gerald's Game, his movie, and I thought she was like so amazing in that movie. And like, that would have been such a demanding role. And so I was like, oh my God, I wanted to like talk to her about it. But then I also wanted to play it cool.
Let's say Sam grows up and she becomes the head of the library in a future film. Okay. If you could cast any two past co-stars in those other two roles to fill out your trio, who would you pick and why?
Oh, to work in my library and be assassins with me. Matt Smith from Doctor Who, because he's just one of my favorite actors. Like, I think he's so good. I mean, I know he's my friend, but like, separate to that, he's so good. And I would say also, maybe I'll take Palm Clemente F, Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. That'd be fun.
Well, now I need this movie too.
Yeah, me too.
We end Ladies' Night with the same question. And that question is, can you name someone who you think is changing this industry for the better?
Ooh, name someone who's changing this industry for the better. I feel like Brie Larson and Tessa Thompson are doing a pretty good job of like raising awareness to things that need to be talked about more. Just on their use of social media, I appreciate that, and I think they're bringing up lots of topics. And you know, they're both extremely well-known actresses in huge franchises, and they're using their platforms for good things. Zoe Saldana too, and Chris Evans. He's tackling the whole thing of fake news, which is an incredible use of his position.
Karen, thank you so much for joining us again for Collider Ladies Night, for this momentous occasion of a returning guest.
Returning guest!
I appreciate it. And I have to let everyone out there know, Gunpowder Milkshake is available on Netflix. You can stream it on the 14th. Check it out. It's a blast. Has an incredible ensemble led by Karen Gillan. Huge congratulations to you, and thanks again for spending some time with us.
Nice to see you. Thanks.